Good evening. It's 5:30 on Wednesday, November 20th, and I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls City School District Board of Education. Ms. Stoikoy, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Coco?
Here.
Mr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Harris? Mrs. Schaefer?
Here.
Ms. White?
Here.
Mr. Harris is under the weather this evening, unfortunately, so he's joining us via Zoom because he still wants to hear about all our student accomplishments. Item B is approve of the agenda. Number 1 is a motion to approve the agenda. It's recommended the Board of Education approves the agenda of the November 20th, 2024 Board of Education meeting. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of a consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one singular motion unless a member of the Board of Education, treasurer, or superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Thank you. Item C is our opening ceremony, and number 1 is our informational items. This meeting is a meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not a public community meeting, although there are opportunities for public participation. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic found on the meeting agenda, the individual must complete a registration form found inside the attendance notebook and present it to the treasurer. Following the introduction of the topic by the board president, followed by board discussion, the individual will be recognized. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic not found on the meeting agenda, they must notify the superintendent and/or board president of the topic no later than 3 business days in advance of the meeting. These individuals may share their comments during the board business portion of the agenda. In both cases, the individual will preface comments by announcement of their name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. All statements should be directed to the board president. No person may address or question board members individually. In addition, in public session, the board will not hear complaints about school personnel nor against any person connected with the school system. An unabridged board agenda for this meeting can be found on your electronic device at the address shown on the screen, and for your convenience, hard copies of the board agenda may be found on the table by the sign-in book. The next policy committee meeting of the board is December 3rd, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. in the Board of Education offices at 405 Talmadge Road, Suite 2200. And the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education is December 11th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. right here in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library. Now for our Pledge of Allegiance and our welcome, Ms. Coco.
Please stand for the pledge as you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. Our vision, Cuyahoga Falls City School District, the hub of our community. Committed to a culture of caring, we innovate, we create, we personalize education for all. Our mission, every student, every day, every opportunity. The board's strategic plan goals are as follows. School safety. We aspire to have a welcoming environment that ensures that the physical and social well-being needs of every student and staff are met. Academic growth. We aspire to have significant growth through personalized education for all students. We aspire to improve graduation rates so that our students are prepared for employment, enrollment, or enlistment. Engagement, inclusion, and diversity. We will ensure that every student has access to resources they need when they need it in order to be successful. Technology and systems integration. We aspire to create safe, secure, and efficient technology systems to support high-quality teaching, learning, and district operations.
Thank you, Ms. Coco. Brings us to item D, presentations, and first up is our Staff Star Award. I'll invite up Ms. Bogdan, our Director of Human Resources.
Good evening, everybody, and congratulations to our top Tigers that are here. Who's going to be a top Tiger tonight? Wow, that's awesome. My name is Allison Bogdan, and Director of HR, and it's my privilege to to introduce our November Staff Shining Star. This is a recognition that we give to a staff member that is nominated by their colleagues. And the person that's being recognized this evening as our November Staff Shining Star recipient is Miss Sidlowski. If you could come on up here. And Miss Merlot, will you join me as well? There you are. So Miss Sidlowski, or what students refer to her as Miss Jessie, works as an attendant at Lincoln Elementary, and she was nominated by two of her colleagues. Miss Kylie Engelhart wasn't able to be here this evening, but Miss Amanda Merlot is, and they have prepared some words to share with all of you regarding Miss Jessie.
All right, let's honor a truly exceptional attendant, Miss Jessie. Her impact on our school community has been boundless. Since Miss Jessie joined us as an attendant, her presence embodied positivity, calmness, and support. Her dedication to our students is unwavering. She forms genuine connections with each child, creating a safe and nurturing environment where they can thrive. Jessie's calm demeanor is a testament to her strength. She possesses the remarkable ability to maintain composed even in the most challenging situations. This quality, coupled with her unwavering patience, allows her to effectively guide students through emotional storms, transforming negative experiences into opportunities for growth. Beyond her core responsibilities, Jessie consistently goes the extra mile. She's always willing to lend a hand, whether it is providing academic support, offering emotional support, or simply sharing a kind word. Her selflessness and compassion are truly inspiring. Jessie's influence extends far beyond the classroom. Jessie is a mentor, a friend, and a role model to whom I have the privilege of working with. Her positive outlook and unwavering belief on our students inspire us all. We express our sincere gratitude to Miss Jessie for her invaluable contributions to Lincoln Elementary. She's a shining star, and we are fortunate to have her as part of our team.
And that brings us to our second presentation of the night, our Top Tigers recognition. I'm gonna invite up Dr. Selico to get us started.
Well, good evening. Oh, my goodness. That's not very good. We're not off to a great start here. And you guys came out on this yucky night. You should be really excited that you made it in. Now you're in warmth. So, yes, good evening. As Mr. Gomez says, I'm Andrea Selico, Superintendent of Schools, and I'm happy to be here with you this evening. And I had to come over here myself because we're no longer attached. So now I have to drive to the meetings, and driving in that wind and rain was no fun, and getting out was even worse. My hands are like just defrosting now. So I'm very happy that all of you still decided to come. I know as a parent I might sit there and go, oh gosh, do we have to go out? But students, it's so important. That's why everybody is here. So thank you for coming. We're happy to have you. So I just want to tell you just briefly about what the Top Tiger Award is. How many parents that are here are custodians, family members have had a Top Tiger in the past? Anybody? Ooh, all right, so we know the drill. All right, don't tell, I'm going to tell. All right, so Top Tiger is an award that is given by our Board of Education members to our students from each building each month. So the students are chosen by various staff members in their building, and I get a chance to read those descriptions about each one of our students. So I'm going to ask students, you need to pay really close attention, because if you're the first one called, you got to follow, we're going to see if you follow the directions correctly. I won't tell you who that person is, though. All right, so when I call your name, you are going to come up here, going to make your way. Some of you are going to weave through. You're going to stand right here. I'm going to read some things and embarrass you a little bit. I think Ms. Schaefer is helping me this evening distribute some of your goodies. You're going to hear about what some of those things are. All right, and then Miss Stewart actually is here, and she is going to take a picture of you back here. Lots of directions. Then you go back to your seats, and then when we're all finished with all the names, we're going to head over to the cafeteria where you'll get some T-shirts, some other perks of the award, and we'll get a group picture, and then parents, custodians, family members, you are able to take a picture over there as well. All right, so lots to remember, but we'll help you if you forget, students. Don't you worry, we got you. All right, so in addition to the board's recognition of you this evening, we also have some other great things and participants in our community that help. And I believe, here it is. This is one thing that you're going to go home with this evening. Mrs. Carlisle is unable to be here tonight, but she represents the teachers union, so she was kind enough for them to provide these for all of our top tigers, so you can put it in your windows at home or your yards, wherever you prefer to do, to tout your talents and your pride for your students. I'd also like to add that we also have generous community sponsors that also help in this with our, one of them and our very important partner is the Cuyahoga Falls Schools Foundation and Alumni Association. Miss Kathy Richards is here this evening, so she's going to tell you just a couple things. Then I will come back on and we'll distribute our awards. So Miss Richards, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Marshall Richards, and I'm an alumni of Cuyahoga Falls and also on the Schools Foundation. It's our privilege every month to give out these awards to our top tigers. The School Foundation, I'm primarily work with scholarships as my part of the foundation, and many other people work with other groups within the foundation. So as we said, we're really happy to be giving you this award. When you get it, you'll come over to the cafeteria. We'll give you a t-shirt. In the spring, around Memorial Day, there'll be a parade, and you are able to wear your t-shirt and come participate and march in the parade. And you would hear a little bit more information about that later. So when Dr. Selico gives you the word, if the parents could come over with your child and just kind of have a seat at the table, then we'll start calling age groups up so that they can pick up their t-shirt, and then I believe that's all they have to do, and then you're free to go home after that.
As Ms. Richards mentioned, so one of the things that I don't typically mention, but I'm going to mention because we learned after doing this many times, but when you go over to the cafeteria, please make sure, students, that you have a seat so we can get organized a little bit easier, okay? I know it's exciting and you want to move around, but if you could please have a seat, that would be very helpful to all of us. All right, are we ready? Enough anticipation? Stop talking, get to the fun part, boys and girls. I know you're ready. All right, okay, we'll get started. I hear you. All right, we start with wits. Last time I threw you guys for a loop, I went backwards. Today we're going to go back to our old routine. All right, alphabetical order, nothing scientific. Our first student from DeWitt this evening is Elizabeth Brummett. Oh, you're right here. All right, okay. So you go by Ellie? Okay, Ellie. Ellie is a hardworking student who takes great pride in her efforts in the classroom. Ellie is a great friend to all of her peers and never fails to go out of her way to make sure others are included. Ellie demonstrates great respect to everyone in our school community. We are proud to nominate Ellie as our top tiger. Congratulations. All right, good job so far. All right, our next student is Ben Dotson. Ben? Ben comes to school with a positive attitude, and it is evident that he cares about his school, his classmates, and his teachers. In all three classes, Ben is helpful and respectful, showing Black Tiger pride at all times. Every day he works hard in class, participates, and encourages his classmates. Ben is a talented artist and shares his love for drawing with his classmates. Keep up the great work, Ben. Good job. Staff from DeWitt, why don't you raise your hands? Thank you for being here this evening. Appreciate you and supporting our students. All right, our next school is Lincoln. Our first student is Drisha DeHall. Little name check. I just had to make sure. She said I got it right. All right, Drisha is the definition of a top tiger. She is a quiet role model in our classroom. She is always following directions, participating in class, and helping her classmates. She always has a smile on her face. All right, just checking. And a positive attitude to go with it. She radiates black tiger pride. She is very strong academically, but more importantly, has a very strong character and work ethic to match. When she's not sharing her talents at school, she enjoys crafting and taekwondo. Whoa. All right. We all love having her in class. Way to go, Drisha. All right, our next student is Rajul Asti. Two for two. All right. Got some things for you. Okay. Rajul is an amazing example of black tiger pride at Lincoln. He is respectful to everyone and is always ready to learn. He is responsible and is always safe. He brings a smile to everyone with his positive energy and humor. All right, there, I saw you. He's a little serious this evening, but he's got it. Rajul loves to read books and loves to share the parts of his books that he finds humorous. He enjoys playing soccer during recess and is a great teammate no matter if his team wins or loses. That's great. He is very helpful in the classroom and loves to help those around him with math, reading, science, and social studies. He loves to share ideas during class discussions, and he is a top tiger every day at Lincoln. Congratulations. I need Rajul to come to my house and teach my 7-year-old that it's okay to lose, because we are not good at accepting a loss in my house. All right. Our next school, Preston, and our first student there is Kai Fisher. Kai? All right. Mrs. Wilson states that Kai is the first one to brighten her day with his smile. He is always helpful in and out of the classroom. He takes his time and his work is he always double checks his work and rereads his assignments to make sure he has done his best. Kai is a terrific listener, and Mr. O describes him as a mature young man who is a very positive role model for his peers. Keep up the great work, Kai. Where's our Lincoln staff? I'm sorry, Lincoln staff? Anybody here from Lincoln? I got one of those. Yeah, that's you are. Okay. And Preston? Preston staff? Where do we have Preston? All right, there they are. Rebel rousers in the back. All right. Our next student from Preston is Remy Loza. Remy? All right, Mrs. Just stated it was easy to pick Remy for her top tiger this month because she is one of the most polite and hardest working students in her class. She is always willing to take the time to do her best. Mrs. Just is extremely proud of Remy for being more confident and outgoing and participating more and more. Mr. O and Mrs. Miller feel that Remy is a positive role model and leader. We are very excited that Remy has joined the Girls on the Run group this year. Do you do a lot of running? Yeah? Ooh, I can't join that group. All right. Thank you for being such a great example of a black tiger leader, Remy. Keep up the great work. All right. Next, from Price, do we have Price group here? Anybody from Price? Oh, there we go. There's one person's excited. All right. Okay. All right. Good. Our first student is Braden King. Braden? Braden. With great enthusiasm, we, the 5th grade teaching staff, that's not me, it's your other teachers, nominate Braden King for Top Tiger. Braden arrives at school every morning with a smile on his face and a strong eagerness to learn. He consistently demonstrates kindness towards others, is always ready to offer a helping hand, and exemplifies black tiger pride throughout the day. Braden truly has the heart of a champion. He tackles new challenges without hesitation, gives 100% effort, and strives to ensure he produces quality work. Braden is an all-around pleasant young man who has earned the respect of both his peers and teachers. We are confident that he has a bright future ahead. Congratulations. our next student is Lenora K. Pavich. Wow. All right. Come up here enthusiastic. How are you? Okay, we're gonna talk about you for a minute, okay? All right, Lenora has had a wonderful start to the year. She has excelled in the classroom, representing a model academic student throughout the first weeks of the school year. Outside of academics, Lenora has been a great help in organizing the classroom and filling in classroom jobs for absent students. She exhibits all of the qualities of an above and a beyond Cuyahoga Falls student, and we're very proud to nominate her as the top Tiger. Good girl. All right. What school's next? Richardson. All right. Where's our Richardson crew? Anybody here tonight? Oh, there they are. All right. All right. Our first student is Bijou Earney. Did I do it right? Oh. Did you know over here? Someone said the name. Did I say it? Earney is what I have. Is that right? Well, I'm going to show you something. People know that have been here month after month. What does this say right here? So that's not my fault. I didn't write that. All right. Someone's in trouble tomorrow. But, right, you're my witness. It says ear, doesn't it? They did. Someone's getting fired tomorrow. All right. I'll keep going. I'm sorry, Bijou. All right. Bijou consistently demonstrates respect by treating her classmates and teachers with kindness and consideration. Bijou's respectful attitude shines in her ability to listen attentively, encourage her peers, and contribute positively to classroom discussions. Her empathy and willingness to support others makes her a good friend and a role model, creating a welcoming and inclusive environment where everyone feels valued. She consistently completes assignments on time, stays organized, and takes initiative when challenges arrive. Furthermore, she practices safety both physically and emotionally, ensuring that her actions contribute to a secure and positive learning environment for her peers. Her achievement as a top Tiger reflects her strong character and leadership, setting an example for her classmates to follow. Congratulations. All right, our next student is Wesley Francini. Throughout the start of the year, Wesley has consistently demonstrated respect by treating both his peers and teachers with kindness and understanding. Wesley listens attentively, contributes thoughtfully to discussions, and is always willing to lend a helping hand, embodying the true meaning of respect in a learning community. In addition to his respectful behavior, Wesley takes full responsibility for his actions and learning. Oh, that makes me happy to hear. Whether it's completing his assignments on time, staying organized, or supporting his classmates, he leads by example. He also practices safety, making sure to follow school rules and encouraging others to do the same as a member of Safety Patrol. His achievement as a top Tiger reflects his dedication to personal growth and the well-being of the school community. Next, Silver Lake. Any Silver Lake staff here this evening? Mr. Dolk is here. Yep, he's in the back. All right. Our first student is Zoe Carter. Not here tonight, Zoe? Okay. Maybe we can get her to come next time. So congratulations to Zoe. Our next student is Brooks Hudson. All right. Excited? Yeah, you should be. All right. Brooks. At Silver Lake, Brooks displays all of the qualities of a top Tiger. He takes responsibility and sets his standards high. He comes to school prepared and ready to learn, does his absolute best on all of his work, and enthusiastically participates in class. Brooks is kind and respectful to adults and classmates and is one of the most trustworthy student helpers. He is someone any adult can count on to assist them, and often he does, and he does so without even being asked. Brooks is a delight to teach and is very deserving of this award. Congratulations, Brooks. Good job. All right, we're moving up to our middle school students, starting at Bolick. Our first student is Jordan Negron. As a new student, well, welcome. Is this your first year here? All right, well, congratulations and welcome. Jordan has adapted quickly to the academic and social environment of Bolick Middle School. She is a hardworking and dedicated student who demonstrates a positive and respectful attitude that aligns perfectly with our Black Tiger Pride values and to become a rising champion. Congratulations. All right. Our next student is Matiah Holloway. All right, Matiah is a top tiger because she exemplifies Black Tiger Pride. You get your posse over there, Sam. That's your paparazzi, right? All right. She comes to school. A lot of proud people over there. They should be. She comes to school every day with a happy attitude and a willingness to participate in all the learning activities. Matiah is a student who tries her hardest and asks for help when she needs it. She is kind to other students and respectful to the adults. We are proud to call her a mighty tiger. Moving, we have Bullock staff. Did I say Bullock? Anybody? Yep, Mr. Oswald's here. All right, and what about Roberts? Anybody from Roberts staff? All right, we got one. Ms. Hartman, Shirley. All right. All right, our first student there is Mason Richards. Mason. Mason Richards sets the standards incredibly high for his peers. Mason is constantly surpassing expectations both behaviorally and academically. Not only is Mason a personally high achiever, but he also lifts his classmates who surround him. He is always willing to help and even does so with a smile on his face. As Mason continues to grow, you got a great smile. His intelligence, wit, kindness, compassion, grit, and resilience will continue to shine through. In addition, Mason is a student athlete, managing all of his classes while actively participating in his sport. As Mason continues to proceed through the Cuyahoga Falls City School District, we know he will continue to make an impact on the Black Tiger community. All right, our next student is Addison Burdett. Addison. Addie is just a wonderful student at Roberts Middle School. She is smiling daily. We got lots of smiles. Yeah, there you go. All right, lots of smiley people. That's great. We need more of you in the world. She smiles daily and enjoys learning and helping others. She excels in all of her classes and actively participates in class, asking and answering questions. She is involved in softball outside of school, and last year was a volunteer at the Special Olympics with our students at Roberts. Very nice. It is an honor for the 7th grade team to recognize Addie not only as a top Tiger, but as an all-around amazing person. Congratulations. All right, moving on to those big kids. All right, Cuyahoga Falls High School. Do we have any staff here this evening? High School, Mr. Smith. Okay. We do have one student who will not be in attendance, but he will come next time, and that's Jack Dahlman. So congratulations to him. Yep. And if I'm not mistaken, our second student is an award-winning actress. Must be, your family, where's her family? Emma Stone, yeah, Emma Stone, come on up, wow. She is so not impressed by that. She is like, I have heard that 100 times, right? I know, old news, but I'm gonna tell you something. Are you ready for this? I'll tell you what's old news, is when I'm walking in the store and someone says, do you know who you look like? Does anybody want to guess what actress? It's old, she's old. Who?
Streisand.
Yes, Yes, Barbara Streisand. Thank you. You're the winner. I hear it all the time, and people are so excited to tell me like it's the first time I've ever heard it. And I'm like, yes, thank you. I know. I've heard that probably 100 times in my life. That's no joke. She's 30 years older, though.
You get a flower.
All right, you ready to go? You ready to get out of here? Okay, all right. Emma has been a role model of a mathematics student by taking honors classes and excelling in them throughout her high school career. Along with being an exceptional student, Emma is also a great personality to be around. She can always be counted on to engage in class discussions and add something to the conversation. She embodies what it means to be a top Tiger, and we look forward to what her future holds beyond Cuyahoga Falls High School. Congratulations. These students are like, I thought this was an award. I didn't know I was going to be bothered as I came on my way up here. But I just want to congratulate everyone. It's really an honor to be able to give those awards to our students this evening. And I always say this every time, and it's true. These aren't coincidences that we continue to hear the same themes about these students. They don't just come out that way. They are products of their environment and under your leadership and your guidance as teachers, as parents. So congratulations to all of you. So parents and family members, you should also get a round of applause. All right, so we are going to head over to the cafeteria. Let's see if we can follow directions. Everyone have a seat, and we are going to get a group photo. So thank you again.
you. We're back. We're ready for presentation number 3, a strategic plan update. We have Mr. Jeff Ferguson here from the Summit ESC. If you would please come up to the microphone, that way the recording will capture your remarks for us. And then if Mr. Harris is on via Zoom, he's under the weather tonight, but he can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Welcome back, Mr. Ferguson.
I know you have, the board has some of the information, but just
Thank
something
you.
to kind of be able to take some notes for.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you.
I know, Dr. Selico, your team is, this is in that folder now too. that
Oh, yep,
you shared
yep.
with everybody.
Thank you.
So they have it. Tried to save some trees on the spreadsheet,
Oh, yes.
so. We ready? All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank you again to the Board of Education for giving us this opportunity from the ESC to partner on the project. And, you know, just, so what I'll do tonight is just walk through kind of what I've shared with you already electronically, and you have it, and just kind of go through how we typically look at the information when we get it, and how we'll walk through kind of 3 steps and the 3 different types of information we capture in those focus groups. And that last, and any questions you have throughout, I'll kind of stop, and if there's a question on something we're looking at, certainly then. But also at the end, I kind of have kind of what I thought I heard, right? I'm the one who did the majority of these sessions, so I'd kind of summarize some common themes and threads, so that'll be here tonight of some of what I felt I heard in these sessions. And so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and I'll get started. And so we had 6 focus groups. We had a total of 52 participants from the various focus groups. And you'll see when we get to the spreadsheet, I'll kind of identify who those focus groups were. And typically we recommend things that we're looking for in a focus session. It's not a statistical search. It's really what we tell folks. It's to help you listen to important stakeholders and see if themes, some of the things are aligned, and some of the direction that you seek to go in the next 3 to 5 years. And are there things you're not aligned to from some certain stakeholder groups? And so those are some of the things that we'll talk about tonight as we walk through it. So the first couple slides we're going to look at are what we call word clouds. But really what we use that for is frequency of response, right? So the more times something is said across the 6 groups, the more frequent it is, and then it's going to show up larger in the word cloud. So when you take a look at the first word cloud for question number 1. So question number 1 was, what do we do well? And what are our strengths? And so you see what word jumps out at you right away? Students, right? So you know, as we look at this, and when we get to the spreadsheet, I'll show you how you can kind of search question number 1, and you'll be able to search and find all, in this case, the word student showed up 16 times in response. So when we get there, I'll show you there's a search function, and you'll be able to pull up and look at the 16 responses across the stakeholders. So, you know, good news is that when you're asking for different feedback from, again, students, parents, the business advisory committee, the staff, the administration, frequently their responses involve students. So that's a good thing, considering our core business is students, right? So it's good to see that is one of the words that comes out. Other things you saw that came out frequently, community, so you're going to go in and you'll be able to see the multiple responses where people talked about some of the strengths of the relationship between the schools and the community. And you can see a couple other ones. Words like support, inclusive came up multiple times. So you also look at, and again, they're not phrases, it's a keyword search. So we always want to be careful, and that's why we say to go then to the next step and you drill into the spreadsheet, and you'll actually be able to see the context with which these stakeholders referenced students, programs, support, inclusive, community. So as you see there, you can see some of those things that came up on the frequent response. When we go to the second slide, then we were looking at things that we don't do so well, things that are opportunities to get better at, things that are struggles. And so you're going to see one of the words that came out was school, which by itself in isolation is not very helpful, right? So you'll be able to go in and drill down and look at references to where did that come up with, because you'll see that this showed up everywhere from school lunches, but the program searches it and sees that one of the stakeholder groups cited school lunches, and again, so that is a reference to school in multiple areas. It showed up as increased supports for schools was another reference that was used when they used the word school, and then also the condition of the elementary buildings came up using the word school. So when you see some of these words, again, I think it's important that you take that next step and kind of go into the deeper dive and look at the context when you start to go at the themes. The third one, hopes and dreams. So the word that jumps out at us is new, right? And it's when you start talking to people about really the future vision of the schools. What are your hopes and dreams for the future? Things such as new buildings, new curriculum, it comes up frequently when we do this exercise where people are talking about, so the word new is again important to drill down. Word like community you see there is large, and they talked about across the focus groups, increased opportunities in the community. One focus group cited what an awesome location Cuyahoga Falls is. When you look at the national parks, the state parks, you look at the library, you look at the resources. So when that word community came up big, their hopes and dreams were more opportunities in the community. The BAC talked about experiential learning for students, getting them into internship type things at the high school level and getting exposure to your middle schools around trades, colleges, military, any of that career. So when community comes up as a hope and dream, those are some of the things that where they were looking outwardly into the community for opportunities for kids. A couple other words, the word opportunity comes up. That's centered around quite a bit around opportunities for students and increasing those. And then let's look at the next one. Obstacles. I always give groups, so when you're talking about obstacles, the way we look at obstacles in a SWOT analysis is to think about things that are externally, they're coming from the external nature in their obstacles. So it's coming from out, whereas weaknesses, things we can do better, usually have more control internally. And so this one, some focus groups have a hard time thinking through, because they're external. A lot of these stakeholder groups you're meeting with are all external in nature, so they think externally. So some of these, what I always remind people, it's all good feedback, right? Whether you think about it from a stakeholder as a opportunity to get better, or whether you think about it as an external force, it's really in the solution that it helps to know whether it's an obstacle, which is external in nature. The most common one we always talk about is school funding, right? You can understand the school funding model in Columbus can be an external obstacle into the future versus something that would be internal. When you look at some of the student discipline, you typically think of that more as an internal opportunity to get better, right? We have more control over that. So that's an example when you look at, and again, you see some of the obstacles. Again, the way they looked at the question, some of the external, which I'll cover in a minute when we get into the spreadsheet. The reason students showed up again here is because some of it, they were looking at it as externally happening to the students outside of school. So when you think of like an example of that, multiple stakeholder groups talked about social media and the impact. So it's externally, in their mind, those stakeholders are seeing it as an external force that is impacting students. So when they say the phrase, this just captures that word, all right? questions on those 4 slides? And some of it will make more sense on the next one. No? Okay. So on the focus group data, I'm going to have to go over here. So what I'm just going to walk through. So when you look at the stakeholder spreadsheet, I just want to walk through a couple things for you. So this is compiling everything we heard. And so what happens on the spreadsheet is it's color coded, so you can see that you're going to be able to look at who said it. And when we met with all your focus groups, we always tell them it's anonymous by individual, but not collectively by group. So everybody that participated knew up front that if I was in the community group, it could be identifiable information by the word, by community, but not who said it in that night. So it is, because it is important for you as a board and for the leadership team as you start to look at this, to know sometimes, even though it was only said once, it might have been coming from a key stakeholder. And I'll give you an example when we go into it. So you can see it's color coded, so you'll know the color code tells you what you're looking at, and then you would also know at the bottom the 4 questions. So we're on question 1, what do we do well, our strengths. And so if I can show you, I want you to think about the word cloud that I gave you for this question, right? And that word that jumped out was student. So if you take, just like any other spreadsheet, you go Control F, F for find, the box up here opens up, and then we're going to put that biggest word from the word cloud. So if you go in and you hit student, it shows you the 16 responses from all the focus groups that are going to have the word student in it. And then all you have to do is keep hitting enter, and it goes to number 2, and it's going to come down and find the second one. So you look at a strength that came from that first focus group, said the Rise Up program for at-risk students. So that was identified as a strength. And so when you look at that, you're able to see, okay, by the color, I know it came from the staff. So that was cited by your staff. So there's a program that you're running that your staff feels is good for at-risk students and doing good things. So, and then if you keep going back into your box, I hit enter again, just to kind of give you an example. So then we'll go to the next one, inclusive student groups. So that next one that was cited by someone said that, you know what, something we do well and something's a strength is we have inclusive student groups. Now I'll tell you, like, this is a great example why it's important to have this also information color-coded. Guess who said that? Your students. How awesome is that, right? That your high school students, being honest with me, said a strength of something we do is that we have inclusive student groups. So there's a key where that might have only come up once, but that's a powerful statement about what you're doing, right? One of the key drivers of what you want to do is being recognized by your students. So there's an example of how the spreadsheet helps where you're looking at the frequency. So we said this came up a lot, but then you're also looking at who said it. And it's also another piece of helpful information. And so, you know, as you start to go through that, again, if your students told you, another thing we feel is a strength here is our grade level, we get along with one another. So students, again, gave you insight into that. And as you go through it, you know, you're going to see that, and you can just see, you can go through all 16 responses. I'll just show you one more that I found, you know, was really, I know I probably get more excited about this stuff than most people, so I apologize, but it's cool for me to kind of see when you look at, so let's look at that one, right? So that's 14 of 16. I know it's not legible for you, but I'll read it to you. Students, so this is again something we do well. Student safety in cooperation with school, police, and fire. And that came from your BAC. So that came from your Business Advisory Committee. You have a fire chief in there, you have elected officials such as the mayor, you have city council people in there, and so to get that powerful statement from those folks, first responders, that said, you know, we feel great about the commitment from the school as a strength in this cooperation when it comes to student safety. So again, that's a great piece of feedback for you to hear, and you're hearing it from folks who are experts in the field. Questions on that or that function? Okay. And so I'm not going to go, you could, you know, it's like going down a rabbit hole, right? You could go down and go, if you go to the bottom tab, you have each question. Again, you'll have your code in the corner. All you do is that Control F, comes up like any other spreadsheet. You put the word you want to see, whether it's large or small, from the word cloud that correlates to it. You pull it in and you hit it, and then you'll be able to scroll through the frequency of who said, you know, when they answered that response. So close that out. So you've looked at it both of those ways, and now let's take a look at kind of, this is just, you know, this is kind of me giving you, going back, and I'm going to spend some time with this information and looking for some common themes and some things that, you know, came from all 6 groups. So when you start to look at that, again, you'll look at some of this we've cited already, but here it is kind of in narrative form, an additional focus on student mental health and social emotional learning and the resources that go with it. Over and over we heard that from your focus groups as something that the district's done well. Additional safety, security, I just cited that for you. Again, multiple groups felt, you know, your staff cited the increase in training. They've been really satisfied with the increase in training, the safety planning, some of the additions that have went on. Additional investments in your classroom resources, curricular adoptions, teaching materials. I saw your folks over at our place today working with Alyssa on some ELA. And so again, your staff, but also multiple staff, parents, students, complemented that classroom resources as a strength. Community support and partnerships. The Tiger Resource Center came up multiple times. Your community, your parents, folks are very excited about that new initiative and want to see it continue to grow, and they want to support it. Other things that came up as a community resource were the community garden. People were excited about the community garden and the creativity of the partnership. I believe that was with the GAR Foundation and some other locals, so they were very excited about the creativity of the partnership, and that was listed. Multiple groups. I met alumni in almost every session that I did, right? I had multiple focus groups. I had some staff that are alumni. I had some parents that are alumni. Your BAC has some elected officials and curriculum, committee teachers, so different folks. Parents, certainly you have parents who believe in the schools, believe in the community, so that there was a tremendous sense of pride and alumni and involvement that came across as a strength. And then one of the number one things that came just from every focus group, including your students, a caring, supportive staff that's committed to working with diverse student population. And they felt that included teaching staff, support staff, administration, the board, the leadership team, the cabinet, all were cited in across categories as saying that they really believed, and some of the ways they cited were visibility. They cited as a way of knowing that they seemed to care. Access, people get back to you. Parents told me that when they call, they feel like they get a response. Sometimes they don't like the response, but they feel comfortable that they're getting that. So those were some of the ways in which they felt, and then the students also very complimentary about believing the teachers care about them. Teachers are willing, a couple of the students cited stay late to tutor, come early to tutor, just a lot of opportunities they're willing to do. So, large number of strengths. So what do we not do so well, right? This came up, the elementary facilities came up a couple ways. So one was the condition. Obviously, when you have buildings that are all built from that first age of building in Northeast Ohio, so most of these buildings are 50s, 60s, some predate that, right? So they do, and then the parents are, the students, multiple focus groups said that the condition of them is something we could do better. Academic achievement, again, this is a good example where, a lot of strengths and a lot of progress have been made. A lot of folks talk about pre-COVID, post-COVID, so a lot of folks felt like in their focus group, that we have made strides in a short time, but they still feel like the students, multiple groups said they still feel like we can do better. They really do.
I have a question about that, because you have
Yep.
here, students can do better. Is that the sentiment that people were giving, that they feel like the students aren't doing good enough, or do they feel like we can do better for our students so that the achievement would be better? Because those are different perspectives, and I don't want to put on the focus groups what they wanted us to receive.
Yep, I could tell you it's a kind of a little bit of both. So it was kind of a belief in our kids and that they believe their kids can do better, so that, are the conditions optimal for that to happen? And so it was we can do better, but also that part of that belief is because they see, staff talked about, they can see it. They battle, like when you talk about some of the external and the obstacles, the social media, the attention, the attendance. So there are variables that some of the staff, but there was a general belief that our kids can do better. And so it's a belief in the kids and that we can do better. And then some of it was, some of the conditions that we need to improve. So it's a little of both, Anthony. I don't know if I answered that, but. Another common stakeholder was and again, it was kind of along with the elementary facilities, you had a couple of the stakeholder groups that believe, and this came community, some of your staff, and then some of your parents talked about the inconsistency among neighborhood elementary schools. So you have multiple buildings, multiple leadership changes. The two middle schools, some people saw that as, and some of the examples, when I kind of ask them what does that look like to them, they talk about administrative autonomy, behavior expectations, special education services. So, and those are, a couple of the examples that the groups gave. Also, you had then concerns around inclusion, the model of inclusion, and that came multiple groups again that talked about inclusion, but then also talked about the discipline of students, not staff, and then also staffing of the program. So, those were the concerns, and then I asked for kind of examples, and some of what they talked about was would have been around that inclusion model, and that came. Some of the stakeholders wouldn't have really a grasp on what goes on inside the schoolhouse, but so when you look at that, that's typically a parent focus group, staff, typical staff concerns. Some folks that were in one of the focus groups were recent grads, and so that came up again there. Okay, and then hopes and dreams, opportunities. Again, this surfaced around just more opportunities for students. I kind of gave that already as an example. Some of the resources here in the Falls, are there ways to engage them and get kids those opportunities? You know, and sometimes, I always tell districts, sometimes a lot of that's going on, and the folks that are saying, you know, that's our hope and dream, they just don't know. So sometimes when you look at something, the solution is just how do we get, you know, more out there so that folks do know our kids go to, if it's the national park or that, you know, but it also doesn't mean there aren't, you know, the other good news is your external stakeholders, like BAC and community are like, we want to do things to help the school. So that's a good piece where some of the businesses and some of those folks want to help. And then more after school, non-sports related came up multiple times. Again, I asked for some examples. They cited tutoring, academic clubs. They feel like the activities athletically, middle to high school, they really feel are good, and they feel like the rec gives a lot of the elementary, the after-school type activities. But so they were looking, when I asked for examples, they were looking for clubs, types of clubs, particularly elementary. A couple of them cited some good things that are kind of once a year, like a family math night in one of your elementaries. Could you scale that up? So those were examples they gave as opportunities. Again, continued growth in communication. Multiple groups talked about, I used the word engagement. The word that came up more often was like involvement, you know, so what they were talking about, the examples they would give you would be non-parent spectators at activities or, you know, plays or, so that was some of the involvement they gave, but they also cited, you know, opportunities that they feel like if people knew, you know, how do you engage, you guys are going to have in this future some big community discussions around some things. And so they were asking, you know, how do you get more people involved and active in volunteerism and try to grow that. But they felt like, you know, they understand and recognize the multiple groups kind of cited. We understand like the communication starts it, like that invite, and how do you, but the goal would be they'd love to see more engagement in their hopes and dreams. And that cites kind of the next one too. And this came up as students as well. They wished more kids got involved and engaged. And I mean, we all know students that are involved, engaged, typically do better, attendance is better, grades are better. And so you had multiple groups, but your students also cited, you know, we wish you had more kids in clubs, more kids trying out for sports. And so they looked for that, but then they also wanted like kind of an increase in the adult engagement in the school activities. And then the last one, you know, when you go back to the spreadsheet, you'll see some that, again, border really internally driven, so you'd probably treat those more as a weakness. But I captured a few of the key ones that would really be more external that came up. School funding, state level, and they combine that, the stakeholder groups, with not just the funding itself, but kind of the movement to increase vouchers, school choice, and then the over-reliance on property tax came from your community and your BAC group. Another external threat they talked about in multiple groups is a negative perception about public education. And so, you know, Cuyahoga Falls City Schools being public institution kind of gets lumped in there a lot of times. Even the kids feel like that. They feel like there's a lot of negativity. When I asked for examples, and I'm not on social media, it was one of the great things I was able to give up after my last job, but they talked about some of the platforms. I'm not talk of the town type things. So that was some of their external, like those to them are an external threat that feeds, you know, the social media piece does feed to the perception that there is this negative attitude about public education. and that it, you know, there's a lot of it nationally, but then locally it gets pulled into the fall schools. And that led to that consistent statement also. Your focus groups feel like there's an inaccurate perception of the Cuyahoga Falls schools in a lot of the segments of the community. And so they feel like that's an external force that you need to be, as a board, in the next 3 to 5 years, just be aware that it's out there. And again, that would be external, so you would approach that differently than some of the internal things. Questions on those? So the last piece I always, when we work with districts, that we go back to is, so you've gathered in all this feedback, you've taken a look at it. Some of the things are things you expected, maybe there's a few unexpected, some things are consistently with what you believed. But then what you want to do is look at the alignment of what you were looking at as your goal areas for the next 3 to 5 years. And so when you look at that, you know, goal area number 1 was culture of caring, and you look at some of the things that folks, you know, so you think about the culture of caring and you think to yourself, in the next 3 to 5 years, this visionary place we want to be in our culture of caring. And some of the things we need to be aware of and thinking about are safety, social emotional learning, well-being, inclusivity of all students and stakeholders, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Pretty consistent with quite a few of your stakeholders, right? Quite a bit of alignment there. You had mention of multiple groups.
I would, instead of saying inclusive of all students and stakeholders, because maybe that's not, we always, as a board, want to speak in impactful language, because that reaches people more. And this doesn't speak to the student part that I wouldn't cut out, but I would say, speaking to a lot of what we've heard tonight, I think a bullet point that I would propose would say, connected to the community. Because I think that's a lot of what we heard from what you said.
Yep.
I think connected to the community is something that we could put under this culture of caring. I'm not committing us to it as a board,
No, right.
Proposing it,
Yep.
giving it to administration to consider.
Yep, no, that's good
But
feedback.
I think that's something we could think about there, because I think we see a desire from these different stakeholder groups on both ends, internally and externally, to have more of that, and that might fit in there. So just something for us to consider going forward.
Did you capture that, Dr.
did.
Selko? I left a pen
I
in the
knew
other.
she did.
I got it.
Okay, so we're going to be getting together, so the
I
board
wasn't
knows
worried about that.
we'll be
Dr.
getting
Selko.
together Monday
Yeah.
to start this writing phase and kind of start to work through. So it'll be
Just as we
definitely.
see that as a theme, that desire to have more connection within the community. on both
Absolutely.
ends.
Yep. And then your second goal area, facilitating our financial future. Again, start to look at some of the guidelines and some of the direction you're looking to go the next 3 to 5 years. Finances, planning future buildings, existing buildings, properties, communication, enrollment, projections. What is the impact of that? You have that. So again, you have some consistency and alignment with a lot of the feedback you heard tonight, right? And then the third one, of course, steering student achievement. And again, when you think about the feedback, you were looking in the areas of academic growth, the use of data to monitor that growth, graduation. Again, you heard multiple groups talking about where do our kids go when they leave us. Personalization. This differentiation, literacy, but also kind of that idea of a personal learning plan. Your students cited they'd like more help with that. So that was cool from the students, that when they look at future planning, they would like to see more opportunities to help them with that, which is, again, that's a type of personalization, right? Preschool, again, when you think about the community, and your mission would be pre-K to cradle to career. A lot of people talked about that, right? So that would include that. Special education, certainly you had some feedback there. Things that you're doing well, things that you might want to take a deeper dive in. And the gifted, again, is another program when you look at student achievement. Questions? Well, the great news is quite a bit of alignment with where you folks were really with your focus groups in a direction that the next 3 to 5 years, and you've got some people, I think to your point as well, some folks that want to help, and that's always good news, right? So,
One of the things I thought was interesting is, I think, in one of the areas, it was, I think the business group said they feel like, you know, we really come to them and ask them questions and, you know, try to find ways to incorporate them. And then I think the families of our students said they really wish, they don't feel like there's a lot of connections into the business community. So I think that also helps us realize, like, maybe it is a strength because the businesses feel it's a strength, but we need to connect these two groups together.
Yep.
So I thought by separating the groups in this way, in past strategic plans, we just shove everybody in one room.
Right.
And say, and then mix everybody up and say, come up with common themes. And I'm not saying that that's wrong because we've gotten good feedback from that. I'm not criticizing past practices, but by having it in this different way, we can compare the groups against each other and maybe see where within our community we need to make connections with different groups. So it's been interesting to see a different process this time and how we can use that data in a different way.
good, and I think you're right. There's some of the unique ways, each one of them wore a certain hat when you ask the same 4 questions. And so sometimes what you see is that it's not reinventing the wheel, it's just like communicating 2 wheels to make sure they're both attached to an axle that's moving in the direction you want to go. So, yep.
I was just gonna say that, the board has had time to digest, so if they don't have as many questions, it's because they've had time to look at all of this and kind of take it in. And Mr. Gomez suggested one thing. I also made a note for attendance for the student achievement. We had talked about it. It didn't make the list, but it probably should. I mean, we have talked about it enough. So I made a note
What?
to add it on. What?
Oh.
Oh, yes.
I think
yeah.
we have that under,
It, well, we have it up above, but not necessarily spelled out in the culture of caring.
I think it, yeah.
Steering system as well.
Yeah. I put it in.
They did not get the population.
That's a good point, Mr. Elder.
I couldn't quite hear.
Mr. Elder was making the point that since our EL percentage of students is almost as large as our gifted percentage of students, it should probably be its own bullet point as a sub-focus under student achievement, which is a very good point that you made.
And that'll be, part of the next steps in the process will be getting feedback from your leadership team, getting to start to really do some writing for you and get ready, and you'll get to see the rough draft and some of the edits that'll come back before the board, where you'll have another opportunity to react and give feedback before that final draft. Other questions?
I know we struggled with where to put communication, but in a way, it's kind of in all of them because you have to communicate about everything. But I know Ms. Stewart probably wants to land in one. It's probably better for your sense of purpose to land in one area.
I see myself, like you said,
Yeah,
in all of them.
because you'll have to communicate about our successes in all areas, but in terms of attending meetings,
Right.
it's
Right.
probably easier for your schedule to land in one, is kind of,
Right.
was more of my focus, and your personal sanity and schedule.
And it can show up, it can show up in all 3 areas as an objective or an action step.
We actually talked about it in cabinet this week, assigning different folks to different goal areas, and we were grappling with, where staffing, for example, HR and communications fell, but we landed somewhere, so.
Yeah, Yeah, but it'll, like, when you think about your facilities and finances and facilities, communication of that to folks who don't have children in the schools is a huge challenge. But then also, when it comes to student achievement, it's communicating to, multiple stakeholders, some in the school, some external. So it's not uncommon to have a communication, it might not be a goal area itself, but it ends up being kind of an objective in each of those, with some action steps around that are specific to those three areas. One of the, I'm just off the top of my head, like the culture of caring. One of the things that one of the groups said you could do better is you have all these awesome resources now for families, and for some of the families, it's access, right? It's awareness of it, and how do we go about that? So again, a communication kind of objective in that one could involve, how do we create a plan that all the folks know, all of our stakeholders know they have all access to all this care. So there's different areas where that, but it does, in both, the majority of the districts I work with, it ends up kind of overlapped throughout each of the goal areas. So I'm sorry to say that to you, Christine.
I know, we did that last time too. We're like, just, we want you to land somewhere so that the expectation would not be that you would attend every meeting of every subgroup.
Right. Yeah, and you got, they'll be able to do that, so. All right.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
She said she was copying it. I would just add that we have some dates scheduled for, and a plan, we think, for writing goals. So I do see, by the end of January, a draft with goals, action steps, objectives, things like that for your review. But it's gonna take some time. So, and every cabinet member has been assigned a goal area.
Look forward to it.
Yep, us too.
And then we are getting set for presentation number 4, which is OSBA policy updates. We're happy to have Ms. Kenna Haycox joining us. Mr. Hutch is getting her set up. She's joining us electronically.
We've got an up close look
And
of you.
she's the Deputy Director of Board and Management Services from Ohio School Boards Association, and they are our policy provider.
Yeah, I texted her and she said she'd come on at 7 unless we needed it earlier, so now I texted her and said we're ready now, so she should be. She said she's on her computer.
I think her goal is to give us a broad overview. Board members, do you have specific policies that you have questions about? Do we have, no, yes? Oh, I have a few. But I have a list. I'm very organized and it's a brief list.
She's waiting to be let in, she said. But I don't know who set this up.
I only have 5 that I have questions on, so I did good. I know, it's not bad for me.
You're in it, Ryan? She said she has her personal email. Kenna's Kitchen. You don't see it?
What is her email?
Kenna's Kitchen at gmail.com. Now, public, don't inundate her with emails. So are you supposed to let her in? Who set this up? Chris?
Chris, but this is the meeting link.
He is double fired, yes. Pardon me?
I just tried to resend the link to that other email address you gave me. It's
Oh.
currently sent to her OSBA.
Oh.
I believe in you, Mr. Hodge. I believe in you.
We can do this.
I told her to check her personal.
Ryan, would you like me to help you? I just called David Moore.
And you all should have been emailed, I think this, it looks like this, the resolution with all these.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in
I think
here.
that's,
You wanna just
Can I see
call
that
her?
email?
she said, went to that link and waiting again.
Oh.
No, I just call her.
There's no waiting. There's nobody here.
Okay.
She's helping another school district right now.
That's why we're,
I could just call her.
that's why we're never doing another pandemic.
Will do.
My first policy is metal detectors. And it was that's they're adding stationary metal detector. You are. It's in,
Oh, is it in there? Yeah.
that's
Oh,
changed.
it's an option.
Ever tried the newest new thing?
Metal
The newest new one.
One of these.
Yeah. It's a hot topic.
Gotta ask about that one.
I think, yeah.
Your meeting's ready. Patty, will you walk her through it? Yeah, I could help.
I could also just call her and if we had to put her on the phone for now.
If she joins the link, she should be here.
She just sent me a picture.
Have her join the latest
It
link.
says asking to be let in. You'll join when the call when someone lets you in. I'm wondering if, because Chris set it up, does he have to let her in?
Maybe, but I started a new meeting as me.
Yeah,
Was
okay.
that
The
her?
newest new link.
The newest thing.
She might have to refresh.
Okay, this is bad, but I'm just gonna call.
I know everything about technology.
Hi, so he sent you a new link, do you see it?
The newest new link.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he said and you used the link that he sent you from Ryan Hutch?
Just now.
Yeah, she said she did, took the one that you gave her.
Just now. The new one.
Took the one that just came in right now, right?
Is that it?
That's what the mayor got. He does the blue hair part.
I mean, the,
Oh,
there
oh,
you are.
here we go.
There she
Okay.
is.
All right, I'm good. Okay. Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, sorry about that. Did I manage? Okay.
You are here. Welcome.
Okay. Right. How's everybody doing this evening?
Good, how are you?
Doing well, thank you. All right, thank you for working through that with me and being willing to having me to all virtually. So, yeah. Are you, Dr. Stelko, are you ready for me to jump in, or
Yep.
did you have anything to share first?
No, we are all ready for you. We prefaced it. We're all good to go.
Okay. Well, what I wanted to do is just go over some of the logistics of the policy project, how we got to where we are now, and then just walk through a couple of items on that summary report that you have, and then answer any questions you have, or if there's any that when you looked at them, you're like, actually, can we tweak this a little bit? We can definitely work through that. And so, just a little context on the work that went into this initially. As I prepared to meet with the district, I did review in detail your collective bargaining agreements, your current handbooks, and your current policies, and our most current master manual. And so what I did was I took your manual as the base, and then basically redlined it or track changed the entire manual in areas where either might have missed an update, or maybe at one point said, maybe we don't want the OSBA update. And then also flagged items where I wanted to confirm were still reflective of practice, knowing that policy is obviously much more than compliance. It's about setting the goals and objectives of your district as well. So there were a lot of those that we just hashed through to make sure they were accurate and further customized to reflect your district operations. And so we went through every single policy that I was proposing, either revisions to, or hey, you didn't have this policy before, do you want it? And then also ones where I said, does this policy still meet a local need, or do we want to consider removing it? And so all of that work was done, and then there were a few that we flagged and met with the board policy committee to discuss. And then what I provided you now is basically all that stuff put together into ultimately what the proposed manual is that's finalized those changes from my desk work combined with the meeting with you all. As I indicated on the sheet, and I'll just cover that real quick, there are some policies that we were saying, actually, we really don't need these anymore. And so those I moved into a new section, just section X is what I called it. So that if you wanted to go back and look at those to say, why are we getting rid of this? And had any questions, those were easy to find. Essentially, when you adopt the new manual, those would be rescinded, right? So those ones would not be in the manual moving forward. So before I walk through just some of the areas I did want to highlight on the report and go through by section a little bit, do you have any questions on the process so far and on the information I went over?
No.
Okay. So what I wanted to do is just make sure that I could highlight a couple of key things by section. We're not going to go through every single policy. As you know, Ohio doesn't give us a lot of choice in some policies. We're kind of stuck with certain changes. One thing I did want to mention real quick is I did note on that summary chart a few what we call global changes that we'll be making that will get integrated in before you look at this again to adopt. And those are personnel changes using the term certified and classified, and confirming that all references to he, she are replaced with they, their, them, or just removed entirely if applicable, changing sentence structure if necessary. And so that is something we will work through to do before you look at this again. And then a minor thing about just updating your district address. So those are what we call global changes that are not in here now, but they will be. So there were, yeah, go ahead. Did somebody have a question?
No.
Okay, sorry. And so really what I typically do here is I just kind of say, hey, by section, did anybody have any questions? Section A, I know we have a lot of conversations around your non-discrimination policies and what is important to you as a district locally as well. I received an update. I had flagged ACAB, student and staff gender identity and expression, just for confirmation and review in light of some bills in Ohio that have passed. And my understanding is that your district is already having conversations with legal counsel about how to review that policy in light of state laws that have already taken effect and are headed to the governor to take effect. And so just that update there, that, basically that is in the hand. There's no changes indicated in the version I'm providing you. That is in the works with your legal counsel. Are there any questions on that or anything related to non-discrimination in general? The other area that I did review with the board policy committee is how we're managing your educational philosophy and school district goals and objectives. And just understanding that you all, I believe we're in the process, I think you had a strategic plan update right before me maybe, if I was looking at your agenda. So just kind of leaving that as is right now and then coming back to it if we need to in the future. One thing we did modify there though is just, I always like to give you more flexibility than less. So an example of that is an AD, development of philosophy of education. I had a defined process where the board policy committee would do it first and then the rest of the board. So we generalize that just to give you latitude for how you might want to review that in the future. So really the big thing there was non-discrimination, which I wanted to cover with you. Does anybody have any questions on anything in section A?
No.
Section B, this is primarily your board operations, right? So what you're required to do as a board, how you function, and there was a couple of these that I did want to address. So one of those, and it is highlighted in yellow, is policy BTDH, also KB, and that's public participation at board meetings. So this is an area when we were discussing it that there was a conversation about confirming your language on personnel matters with your legal counsel. As you know, you can open up your public participation and have time, place, and manner restrictions, but anything that touches on the topics of content, we recommend confirming with legal counsel. So Dr. Selico provided me with the language that your legal counsel proposed about personnel. And I just wanted to see if you had any questions on that, or Dr. Selico, if there was anything you wanted to add it to, any comments on that.
No, I think I was challenged with finding out where our legal counsel stood on when we have folks, what you read at the beginning, Mr. Gomez, for example, about not being able to say things that are derogatory or specific to people. And so then the question was, what about the other side, like being equal in that? So we don't allow you to say bad things, but would we allow you to say good things about people? So that, I think, Ken, if that's, I know she's coughing, sorry. I think that's how I understood it, which is why you had me ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because basically it comes across as anything that could be considered a content restriction is where you open yourself up to a certain level of legal challenge, right? And so exactly what you said is if it's just generic, not on this topic, personnel versus, you know, rainbows and butterflies about personnel, but not the, we don't like this, that was the approach your legal counsel was more comfortable with.
Yep.
Any follow-up questions on that? And I apologize for the off. I think that's a consequence of being around 7,000 people at Capitol Conference, unfortunately. So I love you all, but all right. And then we really did make sure that everything in there was reflective of your current practice for how you're operating as a board. Any questions on anything related to your board operations in section B?
Nope.
And then for your fiscal, really see there's nothing major. It's pretty minor. Section D is all your fiscal policies. Obviously, we went through those very carefully to make sure everything aligns with how you're operating as a district, address any things that your auditors were like, hey, we'd like to see this, which really weren't many for your district, and just make sure that everything aligns with how you're operating to assure sound fiscal documents there. Any questions on anything fiscal related?
No.
Okay. In section E, which is a lot of stuff, food service, safety, all sorts of things like that, I did want to highlight EBCD, emergency closings. And so this is one that I flagged as being something unique to you as a district, where you had said, here's some definite parameters that we want the superintendent to consider when they are determining whether to close school, right? And so some specific factors about what should be considering wind chill factors, for example, or transportation. And so I like to highlight that one because I think it's a good example of where we're like, this is still a good policy for us, this still meets our needs. And so we left that with just a minor revision to align with the Ohio Revised Code provisions around the specific reasons you can close school, because those are defined in statute. One thing I did just want to mention, there were a couple that you looked at in October, and there were a couple of those, but we had a couple of minor revisions that we wanted to make during the meetings that we didn't quite get into those versions that were just the, here's the state law, we had to change this. excuse me, one of those, just as an example, is EBCE-R. This is the protection for reporting safety and fraud violations. Obviously, there's new requirements there or there's some mandatory reporting. You do have some language within some of your collective bargaining agreements that talk a little bit about your process for the union staff on kind of whistleblower protections. So that's just an addition I made to what you already looked at in October, just to say, hey, if I'm covered by a collective bargaining agreement, there may be some other pieces that play in here as we look at this process. Any questions? And then E is your technology policies as well. So we worked through those. A couple of those we removed because they were no longer current. Questions on anything in section? There's a couple new policies there, or one new one on student transportation of private vehicles. Any questions for me on anything in section E?
I have a question on ECA,
Okay.
and it's about the stationary metal detectors, but then in ECAR, there's no regulation on them. So if administration wanted to use stationary metal detectors, would they have to change ECAR and get board approval for it?
That's a good question. I'm pulling that up here now on my end. I think what we could do is we could even clarify, because in the ECAA-R, you do address, it just has the language that says portable metal detectors. So, what we could do is modify that to just add that as a portable or stationary metal detectors. Would that help address that area of concern? Thoughts on that?
Well, we have previously only authorized portable metal detectors as a
Okay.
board, so that would be a change in policy that we haven't discussed yet as a board, which we can discuss as a board if we want to allow stationary metal detectors. Would that be a safety executive session topic?
I mean, if,
Maybe a safety.
if it's a discussion you had and you know, hey, right now it's not anything we're interested and you want to just remove stationary and only talk about portable, I would just remove basically the word stationary from there, if that better aligns with practice.
Yeah, or if you just mention it that we may have the ability to do it, doesn't mean we have to do it, but we would have the ability to do it.
That is correct.
Yeah.
I do know that some districts though are more comfortable with the portable than stationary, so that's why I throw both options out there. If you definitely know we're never gonna do it, but,
Well, I guess is ECAR is the regulations.
correct, yes,
And then
that is correct.
ECA says they have to make regulations, and then there's no regulations for stationary. So if they wanted to do it, they would have to develop
Yeah,
stationary
Yeah.
regulations.
yeah. And I think they would be pretty, I mean, they would be pretty comparable to what's in the portable one, because, you know, part of that, it could be a little bit different, if you wanted that one modified, we could, or, you know, if you just wanna leave it, that if you do in practice, do stationary, you would add some language there, that's a good option as well.
So we either need to add stationary to the regulations or not have it in the
Yeah,
policy.
it would be silent on procedures now, knowing that basically, if you wanted to do stationary at that time, you would put some protocols into place.
So it's something we need to think about before we adopt it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of instances that we would need it. I don't know. Ryan, did you have a thought on that?
My only thought on stationary, we don't deploy them currently, but if something were to change rapidly and we needed to get them rented and get them deployed quickly, and we didn't have it in policy, we'd need to call a board meeting to do that. And I can't, right off the top of my head, think of a scenario where we would, but it's not outside the realm of possibility that something gets a little wild and we feel the need to just do some extra security screening, and we wouldn't be nimble. We would have to call an emergency board meeting or something to authorize that to happen. That's my only thought.
Will we have the stationary ones at the new building?
Not currently.
Okay.
But if something were to happen, we could have them on site tomorrow if we needed
Okay.
to, and for some emergency situation.
It's better to have the option, I guess, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Suggesting is I think it'd be better for us to have the option.
Okay,
Doesn't mean we have to do
so
it.
clear, okay,
We just need to get regulations.
okay.
I think when we wrote these regulations, it was specific in thinking about, trying to get people's vapes, or if we suspected there was a weapon. And the stationary wouldn't be necessarily that you're in the building, so I think administration would just need to think about what those regulations would look like before we approve in December.
Okay.
Is that fair, board?
I think so.
And I can even, if you want, give you some general language to consider, that would hit some kind of, key benchmarks. I know that some stationary type ones too also use kind of advanced technology, right? Where kids may not even need to remove certain things or whatever. So if you want, I can just drop an example in there for you to look at for the next review on some generic standards on stationery.
Yeah, that would be
It would
appreciated if you
include
could get
both,
that
though,
to me, Chris.
It would include both stationary.
Yes.
Okay.
Which, and Mr. Ramos, which one is that? EC?
EH,
That-
no, it was, sorry, ECA and ECA-R.
Yep.
And then
So yeah, go ahead.
I had one more in E, and it was one that got removed. It was under EHA, there was, one that got removed, I believe.
Yeah.
Records retentions.
That is your actual records retention schedule. And so, and I believe that even when we looked at what was in, so your actual records retention schedule does have to be maintained. And often that's maintained kind of somewhere else. I know a lot of districts don't jump to board policy first of all to look for it. So that's what it was the detailed description, retention period, and all of that. And so the district still has that in place. The goal was just to not have it here as well as at the district level. So that was the why on that. Follow-up questions on that explanation or concerns about that?
Do we have that somewhere else, Ms. Joycoy? Because when people have asked for a retention schedule, that's what we've sent them.
So we do, it is on my portion of the website, and it is like officially approved.
By the
I
history.
like the auditor and the historical society sign
Okay.
off that that's it officially. And then we do have it with the other forms on our website if you
Okay.
want to do something.
Got it. Thank you. Those are all my questions on E.
Anybody else have questions in section E?
Nope.
Section, F, we did choose to add, one new policy on naming of facilities. Doesn't say, hey, here's what we're definitely gonna do, but it does set some general, parameters for considerations if you are to, name facilities. So that was one, was a little bit different. Other than that, does anybody have any questions on that or anything else in section F?
No. Thank you.
Okay. So section G personnel, we worked through, with you having multiple, collective bargaining agreements, making sure everything aligns, or if we needed to, generalizing some policies to avoid any potential conflicts. This is one where we do spend a lot of time, obviously to avoid any inconsistencies between contracts, knowing contracts gonna trump. And a couple of things that I did want to point out here were, one of the things that was a bit of a change in practice was your language on the procedures you would use for the RIF with administrators. So that's GCPA-2-R. That was one that was reviewed with the district, and I updated that based on that information. And then a lot of them were really just giving you more flexibility in some areas and then aligning with all those policies you recently adopted in October. Does anybody have any specific personnel questions?
No.
So I didn't have anything in H. I did want to walk through a few things in section I, which is instruction. So this really covers like the programs that you're providing to students and also the materials you use to support that. So an area we have a lot of conversation around is the process you use within the district for basically the use of materials and, you know, making it clear kind of the board adopted curriculum, the textbooks, the intersection with supplementary materials as well. And so in policies IIA, IIAB, and IIAC, these kind of then have a trickle down effect into a policy in section K, okay? So one of the things in IIA and IIAB, which talks about instructional materials and supplementary materials, is just adding the language clarifying that teachers are to use the board adopted curriculum for core programs, and then clarifying that supplementary materials are approved by the building principal. And then your policy on library material selection and adoption, IIAC. I understand that a lot of work went into this locally, crafting this. This is very district-specific language on your parameters for that. One of the changes that I was recommending here was just kind of distinguishing between instructional materials versus library materials. Because of that, you know, the instructional materials fall under the curriculum, and there's a specific process that is gone through to select those. For certain types of instructional materials, there's state law standards you have to meet. And so I just wanted to avoid any confusion within that policy on really to make it clear that when it's a library material, it's a library material, right? Like you're looking at those as library books, and the instructional materials are covered under, you know, those other ones like IIA, IIAB, and then the public complaints policy we'll look at in a second here too. So I just wanted to flag that, make sure that that edit was clear, and then just you know, see if as you looked at the IIAC again, if there was any questions that you had on that and that process. If that recommendation makes sense of how I'm revising it.
No, it made sense.
Okay. And then for the KLB, the public complaints, which I know is down in K, but just to address that now, what we did there is because your policy IIAC says here's what we're going to do specifically for complaints about library materials. Essentially KLB, I said there, hey, if your complaint is about a library material, this policy doesn't govern it, you need to look here for that process. Just to further communicate to your public, hey, if it's about a library material and I go to public complaints about this, I know, hey, here's where I actually go to have a complaint about a library book. So clarify that. That was a big area we had a lot of conversation about in I. There was a couple things that, one was new, INB, teaching about controversial issues, and I think this is one that was proposed to review along with the instructional ones, just to say, hey, do we like this one or not at this time? So did anybody get a chance to look at that one or have any questions on that one?
I think we read them, and I don't think we had any questions.
Okay, great. Okay, so section, anything else in I before I jump to section J?
No?
Okay, so section J, just one thing to highlight here is that we, in both JECB and then JECBB, for admission of non-resident students and your statewide open enrollment, we just made a couple of clarifying changes there. So in JECB, we kind of broke it out to say, hey, here's the times we have to let a non-resident kid enroll tuition free. And then here's where state law gives us the choice if we want to. So made it clear what was required versus optional. And then also updated the language in your open enrollment about what happens if a kid moves out of the district during the school year. And what does that look like as far as their eligibility to potentially apply for open enrollment? So that was one I just wanted to flag a little bit there. And then any questions on that? And then I have kind of a general statement on how we adjusted some discipline policies.
No questions on that
Right.
one?
So one of the things that we were working through is, as you know, the Title IX is a big deal right now. We went into this project wondering if the 24 regs were going to take effect, and then ended the project still operating under the 2020 regs. And so one of the things that we were looking at is I had originally proposed some language on like the intersection of Title IX and discipline, and that can get kind of confusing. And so where we landed was we didn't get in the weeds on the discipline aspects in all the policies on what you would do if the behavior was considered sexual harassment under Title IX. But we did make it clear that if an individual has that actual knowledge that the behavior they're reporting or managing is sexual harassment, that they have that obligation to contact the Title IX coordinator. So that's where we landed with those. Wanted to see if there were any questions on that.
No, we have a great Title IX coordinator. He's sitting here.
Yeah, he was great. He was great about this and being on it, and we hashed through that. And,
Yeah.
yes, everybody at the district has been very great to work with and helpful. So I greatly appreciated that. And then, you know, there were a few, this is just an example where I was like, hey, do you want this? And you said, thanks, but no thanks. So if it said, you know, new optional language, I made it clear whether we decided to add it or not. So if you're like, I don't see JL, you all were like, you don't like the language, which is okay. I don't take things personally. So those were the things I wanted to highlight in section J. Anything on that before we jump into K?
I just wanted to highlight one, JGD, because it's a just change for our board, and I just want to make sure the board's okay with it. We talked about it at policy committee, and policy committee agreed to the change. I just want to make sure the rest of the board is aware of this one. I know they read these, but it's on suspensions and changing the appeal process for suspensions to the superintendent being the person who does the appeals for the suspensions. Since the principal suspends, and then the superintendent would hear the appeal, and that would be the final. For expulsion, since only the superintendent can expel, we would still hear the appeal for that, because we felt like in each of those then, they have the appeal to one step above. So, I know it's a change from past practice, want to make sure we just discuss that, because it's a thing that we're changing in terms of board authority. But we agreed to it at policy committee on behalf of the board, just want to make sure we feel confident as a board in that. Knock on wood, we have not had one in a while.
So thanks for highlighting that, I appreciate it. I would say that's what I see a lot, honestly, pretty consistent with practice for a lot of districts. Any discussion or questions on that? Thank you. All right, So then section K, really the big thing I wanted to emphasize is the updates we made in KLB and the accompanying new form there for complaints about instructional materials. Touched on that briefly, but basically the revisions are to make it clear to the community what happens if the complaint's about a library material versus other instructional materials. And then you have a form for library materials. You did not yet have one for just like instructional materials in general. And so the recommendation was to add that one KLB-E just so that individuals had a tool to use to kind of think through what I want to, what I want to share with the district to move forward with this. Questions on that?
No, I just like the options in the form because one of the options is that you're requesting it not be assigned to your child, because I think sometimes that's what people want, is that maybe this isn't how I raise my child, and if that is an option, oftentimes that can assuage people. So just the different options that OSBA provides there, I think is really well thought out.
We've always done that
Yeah.
in our district.
Yeah, and on that, I know that we had a couple sessions. I think our school law workshop on Tuesday was a really helpful capital conference session on kind of managing those kind of complaints. And then Sarah and I presented on parental rights that touched on this too. So there's a lot of resources in that area. If you need any of those, let me know, and I'm happy to share those. And a lot of that is just work with the parent first, to kind of figure it out. So
I went to that. I started at that session, so it was a very good
Sarah
one.
and I
Yes.
session? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, those were the areas I wanted to highlight. I know, obviously there's a lot more changes, but as I said, a lot of those are either here's what we're stuck with, or this better clarifies what we're doing as a district. On my end, I have a note to add some language for you all to look at on kind of generically what it would look like if you had stationary protocols, stationary metal detectors you were using. Are there any other items that you need me to look at in more detail for you or provide any additional guidance on?
I don't think so. We pride ourselves on being pretty thorough here, so we try not to have too many surprises by the time it gets to the board meeting.
I know, I mean, you all were great to work with. I do like that, the attention to detail, and like I said, and I always encourage boards to do more than just do compliance for policy, and you all do a great job on that, so that's encouraging to see. Really the next steps are for you to, what I think I gave it to you already, but I believe I provided you with the resolution that you can basically just say, hey, here's our new manual moving forward. You don't have to list every single policy code, because there's 446 of those left if you take out the ones we're removing. So, and then what we would do is just, switch everything out and archive your old ones, and that will be your new manual moving forward. So, let me know if there's anything I can do to assist with that. And I appreciate you all taking the time to meet with me. Is there anything else I can do for you this evening?
Thank you for your time, Kenna. We appreciate
All right,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
I hope everybody has a good Thanksgiving break, hopefully. So, all right.
You
You too.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Now on to item E, Treasurer CFO's business consent agenda. Ms. Stoikoi.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve all items in the treasurer's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion?
Just the minutes from last meeting, and then the donations. We are getting a lot for the Black Tiger Resource Center, as we've been mentioning, and oh yes, that's right. Two of those people are in attendance today, Ms. Stewart and Ms. White. And then Ron Marhofer, and then as always, Ben Curtis Family Foundation, and Dick's Sporting Goods. And we appreciate that. Thank you to the both of you.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Oops, Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
It's been so long, I forgot.
Item F, Treasurer CFO's business, Ms. Stoikoy.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend the Board of Education approve the October 2024 investment schedule and monthly spending report.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. Just a couple things to point out real quick. One, the interest for this month, it's not as good as the previous months, but, we are dwindling down to our, kind of our low point in cash, and, feds have started to cut the rates, so, I expect to see, I don't know if it'll be this much, it probably won't, it may look similar to this over November and December, and then come like January, February, our cash balances will get a little bit bigger with, the second half collections for real estate. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, and I think I mentioned it last month, but in general fund, it really looks like there's this anomaly compared to prior years for the expenses in October. They're over 6 million, and previous years it's only been 4.6, 4.2. If you remember, the reason for that is we sent a double payment to the insurance consortium because with the high claims that we've been receiving and some of our stuff tied up in investments with the consortium, there was a need for a cash influx, and so what's happened is we'll do this twice then, and then we will not pay anything in June. So we'll see double here and nothing in June. So it's gonna skew kind of those 2 months for that reason, and those payments are, close to almost $1 million each month. So it was 2 million. So that is why that looks out of whack, and why when you look down at the cash balance and stuff, it'll all work itself out by the end of June for the ending numbers to be in line, but we will see in the future when looking back the 2 months of an anomaly there.
We're probably not gonna see a lot of 20 millions again.
No.
When you say work itself out, I mean.
Yeah, work itself out as best it can
Yes.
for statistical
Statistical
interpretation.
for the graphs.
Yes, for trend interpretation. It'll work itself out.
Questions or comments from the board? Thank you. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye. Item 2, any additional comments?
Just a quick one. Myself and Ms. Grimm in my office have been going on tours of the buildings and attending some staff meetings. I think we're about halfway through. And let me just tell you, these people are on the edge of their seats. They just can't get enough.
We set them up for you.
So you couldn't believe it. But they've been going well. We were just kind of going over some, consistent questions we get, where people can find things, and then kind of open it up at the end if staff have any particular questions about something. And just kind of going over our processes and, how that's done. But things we typically get a lot of people that are like, how do I do this? Or how do I do that throughout the year? So I think we have 4 buildings left, but we should be done by middle of January. But it's been going well.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that. Brings us to item G, Superintendent CO's business consent agenda. Dr. Selico.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve all items listed in the superintendent's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, Dr. Selico.
Yes, so we have a few personnel issues, including some coaches trying to.
They're not issues.
Did I say issues?
Yeah.
I was bracing myself.
I was gonna say.
Well.
I was gonna say, not issues for the record. I don't
We
think
do, but not, no, I'm kidding.
Yes, Ms. Buffington.
We have a few items,
Sorry.
items is the word,
Okay.
listed under
Yeah, I wanted to
personnel.
save you on that one.
Thank you.
Dr. Salka.
Yeah, it's been a long day. The items listed in personnel related to, we have coaches, we have an advisor at BOLIC, a substitute, we also have, worth noting is a retirement of Ellen Allerton, who, we're in her classroom right now. So want to wish her well, and just wanted to point that out. I'm not sure how many years she's been with us, but it's been a number of years. So appreciate that. And then in attendance tonight, who's been really, the two are hanging back there, kind of like the Muppets in the balcony over there, right? The two gentlemen that sit back there. But the one is, yes, it's actually Joanne and Christy who are the two of them. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about Lori Sinek, who is, again, here this evening being recommended for the routing specialist position. So pending your board approval, Ms. Sinek would be joining us as our newly approved routing specialist with over 20 years of experience in school transportation as an onboard instructor, lead driver, assistant transportation supervisor, and transportation supervisor at both the Strongsville and Brunswick City School Districts. Over the years, Ms. Sinek has been an active member in the North Region Rodeo, serving as a secretary and judge. Ms. Sinek is very excited to bring her experience to the Falls and join the team. Those are our personnel items. We also have some stipends for the science of reading. We have the Ohio minimum wage increase reflected there. The substitute and non-union pay rates, we were really, because we have now added vans, we had to fill in the gaps there with some rates relative to the van drivers. Then we have the Summit County ESC. This is, as Jeff mentioned earlier, Alyssa Hicks is doing some work with our teachers in literacy and wit and wisdom specifically. We have the Ohio State social work. You've heard about this a couple different occasions now. That's coming to fruition to get some interns in social work, which will be a great addition, one in particular, and would love to have more if we had the opportunity were to arise. And then we have a contract here, an addendum for a speech pathologist, long-term substitutes position, so we will be paying an hourly rate with an outside agency for that. We also have a impracticality of transportation. We had to add a couple more of the ones that we missed, and then we also have the nutrition standards that we're asking to be adopted from the Smart Snacks Nutrition Standards.
Sorry to say.
Thank you.
Questions or comments from the board? The minimum wage increase, we're doing that just in case, but we did confirm that nobody in our district makes minimum wage. So I just want to make note of that fact. We're doing it just as a good housekeeping measure, but for the record, nobody makes minimum wage, which is something to be proud of.
Hopefully they make more.
They do, yes. No, it's not legal to pay
Yeah,
less.
we don't want to make less, so.
So, it's just good to point that
Good,
out.
yeah, just to clarify.
And then the other thing, just to welcome Ms. Sinek to the district, that position has been posted for a very long time. So I know it's like finding a needle in a haystack. I know that Ms. Johnson is gonna be thrilled to have you join her. And we're happy to get to welcome you here shortly, once we officially vote, so welcome. Anything else, board? Please call the roll.
Ms. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye. Welcome.
Would you like to come to the podium and say anything, since you waited patiently? Yes. And then I'll give you permission to leave after this, if you would like. Don't feel bad if you have to leave. We're not much longer, but still, you've endured quite a bit, and you've learned a lot about the district tonight, I think.
I like
Yeah, great.
meetings, because that's the only way I know, truly get to know the district, so.
Okay, I'm not very good public speaking, so forgive me. I just want to say it's truly an honor to accept the role of routing specialist, and I want to extend my gratitude for this new opportunity. And as I step into this position, I'm particularly excited about the opportunity to work alongside Marjorie, because I see her commitment and I see her passion for building an exemplary transportation department. It's my passion to do that also. Her leadership and vision inspires everyone around her that I got to see. And as Marjorie and I embark on this journey together, I believe we can have the potential to create a remarkable team together. I'm confident that with our combined efforts and experience and dedication, we can truly achieve outstanding results. And under her guidance, I know we will cultivate an environment where every voice is heard and valued, and foster collaboration and innovation within that department. Marjorie and I together, I'm very excited because I have a great feeling in that we will take the transportation department to new heights and tackle the challenges that lie ahead. And thank you for welcoming me into this district. I appreciate it.
That brings us to item H, your comments, Dr. Salika.
Thank you. A few things to note. The middle school / high school communication has been going out for the new campus, so we've notified our staff and now our parents with a lot of information. We kind of inundated them, but I'd rather over-communicate than under-communicate. We'll certainly continue to share information as we get it. A lot of work has gone into that. It may not seem like it on the surface, but there are a lot of moving parts to this and a lot of confirmations that need to be made. The time to get the pictures organized, the video. I appreciate Christine's work on that, and kind of wrangling all of us to get the information, from architects, from Hammond. So we just want to make sure we're providing that information. So parents have, as I said, have received some information. We'll continue to handle their questions and respond. But again, these things do take time, and we'll have another update, I would imagine, after the first of the year at some point as things develop. But we want to ensure that, make sure that things are happening. We're not going to communicate just to communicate. We want to make sure that we have substance for them and that we have answers to their questions. We also, Jeff had mentioned this evening, the condition of the elementary schools came up, interestingly, with the strategic plan. And if some of you recall, we were having a conversation about the next phase about elementary schools, and it hit me like just a curiosity, right, about 3 or 4 schools and what that would look like and the timing. Well, I'm really glad I did that, and I'll have a more thorough update. I'll just give you a teaser right now, but they're really backlogged on when the money can come. So in brief, 7 to 10 years is when the money will become available, and if we get in now, like express our interest. So I'll give you the details of that in a report, but we don't really want to wait much longer because we're going to fall further and further. There's 19 school districts ahead of us because they only have a finite amount of money, and that's what it is. So that was a little alarming to me, frankly, and I'm kind of glad my curiosity kicked in because, but I don't know if we would have waited longer. I don't know. We fall further and further behind. This weekend is the play. They had it last weekend, Frankenstein. I happened to see Miss Mahal today, and we were chatting about it. She said it went well, so I'm looking forward to going to that on Friday night. I've been making my rounds, classroom observations, sitting in classrooms 15 to 20 minutes at a time. I've been doing this each year. I was at DeWitt today. I think I go to Richardson tomorrow, so had some good observations and some fun interactions with the students in the class. It's always interesting. Tomorrow is my first coffee chat. We're going to see how this goes. I'm at the natatorium from 8 to 9. We've received some feedback. Interestingly, that parents were engaged and saw our posts and were curious about it, but had suggested maybe like after they drop their children off or even in the evenings. So we'll probably mix it up. We'll try different times because, as we know, not every time is a good time for people. Our schedules are all different. So we're prepared with some visuals of the new campus and then the report card of my 2 topics that I'll hit on tomorrow, and then any other entertain any other questions or thoughts people have. And then I would just lastly say Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Salika. I have one question to follow up on what you said. You said after the first of the year there'll be another update. is that when we would probably expect to push out the answers to like all the questions we're
Yes.
gathering? Yeah.
Yes.
That'll just be helpful as parents. We see parents will probably be in the buildings for events a lot with holiday time. So if that comes up, just we can say,
Yeah.
you know, we want to get you through holiday break as people kind of check out. That'll be helpful just to have that clarity to give to people as well. So
Because I think we gave them till the end of November to submit questions, so then December, as we know, was short due to the holiday, so I didn't want to commit, you know, falsely, so I would imagine in January, we would be good to go to answer some of those questions.
And I have one thing, if you could take back and then give us information on, because I would never expect to ask a question, then just get an answer at a board meeting. You know that. But we're nearing the end of the semester break, and we are doing these new student IDs, and they still have their temporary ones, and we're starting to hear some complaints from families about that, because they still have the temporary ones and not the permanent ones, and then issues with that because they're getting damaged, but then they're being charged for replacements, and that's one of the concerns. Just that we're hearing from the community. I don't know if people will raise it at the coffee chats or not, but if that's something we could look into, if there's a time that we know certain when they'll get those permanent IDs. It's something that I know some of us as board members have heard from in the community. Certainly don't expect anyone to have to answer that tonight. That would not be fair to our administration, but if that's something you could take back and get us more information on.
I can answer now.
Okay.
If you have an answer?
Yeah, so the permanent IDs are in. What we're waiting for is, we also had to build a process to print permanent replacements. And we've got that problem solved, so we'll be issuing permanent IDs very, very quickly. We haven't and would never charge a child for a temporary ID.
Okay.
So I don't want to do it, we wouldn't do that with any child.
That's good. We can clarify that misinformation if people
Yeah,
are.
and the process took a while. We had to wait for students to get their photos taken, so it's
Yeah,
been
and it's a
drawn-out
first
process.
time, but
We wanted to start the year with something for the kids.
it's one of those things that sometimes people come to us with things and they don't come to you, and so it's just helpful for us to make sure that we're
We
bridging
would
the
never
gap.
charge a family like for a piece of paper like that.
That's good to know. We'll make sure that we clarify that and make sure that misinformation does not spread.
Yeah, I think there was some concern with that because that was put out with
We will-
the
there will be a fee
IDs
for
of
replacement
what
of
the
a permanent
charge,
identification
right.
card,
But I
not
think
for
that's
a
where the
permanent.
confusion was for some parents, was because that was listed as a charge, so they didn't, you know, necessarily understand the difference between the
Fair,
permanent and temporary.
no, we're not charging you for a temporary person.
But I've heard positive comments about it as a security thing, so.
Yeah, there was even one of our top
Tigers,
Tigers wore
yeah, still wearing
their
hers.
student ID. So I was like, good for them.
So I
It's
think-
ingrained in them if they're in a building they need it on,
It's
so.
critical for us, it helps us know who belongs where, and that's really, it's very helpful for us on security.
Yeah, I think it's been a great practice on the whole. Certainly not criticizing the practice at all. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, we appreciate that. That brings us to board business. Number 1's adoption of the 2025-2026 school calendar. And it's recommended that the Board of Education approves the calendar for the 2025-2026 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? It's just exciting because this is the school year that will move into the new building.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the communications that have gone out and trying to help our families kind of understand the pieces, parts that go along with this. So another thank you to Ms. Stewart for that communication piece. She's already gotten it out to our families once, which we appreciate. So thank you for that. Please call the roll.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Number 2, policy manual first read. We just need a place on the agenda to formally say that we're first reading all those 400+ policies. I think we had enough discussion, unless there's anything else. Okay, thank you. Number 3, future agenda items. Any future agenda items at this time? At our next meeting, we have Ms. Klein coming from Parks and Recreation, as long as everything's going well with her family, which we send her good thoughts for that. And then we also have the success and wellness update. So that's for our next meeting, Mrs.
Is that
Schaefer?
the panorama?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have something else, Mrs. Schaefer?
I have a question. Previously, we had, we were gonna submit any questions and that we wanted, Ms. Klein to address when she came. Are we still forwarding those? Because I didn't, or she's giving a presentation or what? I guess I'm trying to
Ms.
remember.
Coco
exactly.
and I have been kind of working on something for that, so if you wanted to send it,
Just send it to you, see if, make sure you all have covered it.
yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Because we kind of have it on tennis courts, and then we're trying to work on like creating a positive process to address our concerns for the other sports.
Perfect.
And those were kind of the two topics. Like,
Okay.
we want to have a positive working relationship
Uh-huh.
and a process
Yep.
in place while she's here. Like, let's develop the process for our, we all know that our families in these other sports that we have a partnership with parks have concerns and they come to us. One, do they come to her, like, does Parks even know? We don't, honestly, we don't know the answer to that always. So what is the positive working relationship process that we can develop with her to make sure that those things are made aware of to Parks and Recreation, and how we work together to kind of work towards resolution?
That is adjacent to what I was thinking, so
Okay.
perfect.
Yeah.
I was just looking ahead in the agendas, and I see that we have Top Tigers next time. We have Sarah coming, and then the Success and Wellness, and then I think we also have Program of Studies. So would it be okay if we move Success and Wellness to January, or would you like that still in December? I always try to even out
What
the
was the
agendas.
last thing that you said?
Program of Studies, and is that time sensitive?
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll have a summary, you'll have everything ahead of time as well,
Yeah.
so,
Do you anticipate a lot of changes?
I don't think anything new that, hasn't been kind of, foreshadowed for you about something, so, nothing I don't think controversial or anything like that. But I can certainly highlight, some things we've been working on.
Will it be do you think it'll be a brief presentation, or, because I know,
We could certainly make it brief.
okay, and then
I can personally do it, make it brief.
I know you can.
So,
And-
success, wellness, we're kind of also cover attendance as well, because I know that was
Yeah,
a topic that you
that
wanted.
tends to go a little bit longer of a presentation.
Yeah, there's two parts of it.
Basically have like a course that's a half year, half semester to 1 year.
Mhm.
Some and some the science pathways, which we just want to kind of change the direction.
What's the desire of the board?
I mean, I would be okay with moving
The panorama.
to January. I like what you said, having it in December, because we always have it in December, so we can anticipate it in
Well,
December.
the data won't change.
But I'm okay with
The
January.
data will be set regardless.
Yeah.
So the success and wellness data will be first quarter, first semester anyway,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so
It'll still be
January?
the same data, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
And then I had one future agenda, it won't be until sometime in spring, but we have our first cohort working on wit and wisdom, and then we'll have our second cohort that's kind of onboarding with wit and wisdom. And then speaking with Ms. Hausman, she said sometime in spring, they'd be able to come in and do a presentation on how that's going with our new wit and wisdom curriculum and give us an update, especially Ms. White on the writing piece.
Define spring.
We could be ready whenever.
Like what's a good, like March, April?
April.
I didn't ask because I said it would be, I mean, they'll
Yeah.
quote me on this, I said it'll be Ms. Coco's problem, I'll just bring it up.
When do we schedule the gifted update?
Gifted, we said would be
In March,
in, probably.
I'm
February?
looking through some drafts now.
February? I
February.
wasn't sure, that's
But
fine.
I don't think we're on an agenda yet.
I'm looking now, I don't,
Okay.
yes, Gifted is on the January, it says January 8th meeting.
It can be February.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'll be
Okay.
February.
February.
And then CTE, it was also slated in January, so.
Well, we'll have at least two in January,
Yeah.
2 meetings.
Yes.
We got it all? Anything else at this time, board, admin, we need?
I'm sorry, was that last one, were you talking about literacy?
Yeah, the wit and wisdom
And that's when,
specifically.
that's February? Or-
April.
April. What was, so I'm not missing anything in January or February, I'm sorry, I was,
So January is
I have
CTE.
Gifted and CTE.
No,
No,
gifted's February.
okay, we're gonna move Gifted to February, that's what I had, I
Success and wellness is January,
got it.
along with CTE.
So CTE is moved to February.
Okay.
Or, I'm sorry,
Thank
for the
you.
panorama? Be first.
Okay, got it, thank you.
We good, board? Okay. Number 4, committee reports, Ms. White?
Yes, I was
construction
unable to attend, but Dr. Selico took good notes for me, so I will tell you. Building 4, concrete work being done on Courtyard. They're finishing up the concrete work, done before, wanting to get it done before December. Miscellaneous concrete throughout the winter, working on interior masonry in Building 4. The bulk of work in auditorium is being done now. That'd be cool. Anyway, where was I? Now, where am I? Okay. Exterior brick veneers being wrapped up. Structural steel completed, crane coming out in a couple months. The first and second floor casework is ongoing. Drywall building 3 above student dining in process. The paint building the second floor and repainting of black box completed. Flooring in building 1 happening. Doors are coming in so they can secure building for the winter. Electrical going on in building 3 and 4. The HVAC and plumbing coming along. Bleachers, concrete complete, will go over in the winter. Roofing done with a few minor exceptions. Back to the problem of the windows overlooking cafeteria. Now we need to decide on glass. So that was a problem, and I think they're trying to decide what to do. Anyway. The atrium, the glazing on the window, assumption made that the city would accept original design application. County won't accept it, so now we have to decide. Floor to ceiling glass, laminated safety glass is $95,000 versus glaze and fire-related glass on the current design, which is $150,000. Choosing to do floor-to-wall glass options looks better and cheaper option, but we have to scrap the framing we already bought. So there was a problem with that, the big windows off the cafeteria. So we're trying to tackle that problem.
Thank you, Ms. White. Even when you can't make it, you give us a thorough
That's
report.
because Ms. Zolika
Exemplary.
takes care of me.
You're exemplary.
Yeah,
We got you.
I know. I appreciate it.
Board policy, even with all of that, we have a meeting in December because we'll have more coming for you, so don't worry. We'll keep you busy.
December 3rd.
Get your reading glasses and your hot cocoa because we're coming for you with more policies.
December
Uh,
3rd.
Business Alliance Council did not meet. Wellness Committee, did you meet?
No.
No, okay. Financial Advisory Committee? Did you meet?
Yeah, we met, we basically talked about the same thing the same presentation that we had last meeting. It's pretty exciting.
You did the 5-year forecast.
5-year forecast. We talked a little bit about levy cycles, and TIFs. And there's a new, is it ordinance law, that, with TIFs, they don't have to even notify the school districts if it's under 75%.
Yeah, up to 75%.
Or, under 10 years. They've been notifying. Yeah. It's wild. It's wild.
I will say, our city's very good about being very generous
That's what
about
Ms. Soy said,
notifying
she
us
said,
and-
but we don't,
Yeah.
that is not generally a problem here, yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't have to.
But isn't that's a wild thought to me, but anyway, but yeah. It was a lively meeting.
Oh.
Some active community members with lots of great questions. It was a good meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Student Achievement Liaison,
No, we will be meeting December 4th in the library at 3:45.
are there any future gifted committee meetings that was?
No, we're doing that quarterly, so
Okay.
I'm not sure when the next one, if she said it yet, but we're just gonna meet the 4 times a year
Okay, you're meeting
to
quarterly.
check in, yeah.
Thank you. Comments, number 5, Ms. White.
I know, okay. Well, I don't have a lot, but I do have an article. And it kind of goes along with Mrs. Hausman and teaching and learning. Some things in our notes, the personalized checklists. Student checklists were introduced as a tool to help students track their progress, identify areas for improvement. These checklists can be personalized to meet the individual needs of each student. I want to emphasize that they've already looked at, starting last year, looking at the standards and going deep into those and getting clear and concise criteria. Now, the personalized checklist, I wanted to point that out, as well as self-reflection. This is big on my part. I've always had my students do some self-reflecting. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think it's still a very good idea. And they discussed using self-reflection questions as exit slips to encourage students to critically evaluate their learning experiences by reflecting on their own progress. Students can develop metacognitive skills and identity areas for growth. That is a high impact strategy research by Dr. John Hattie. So I think those are 2 wonderful things that I'm seeing. I just wanted to point that out because it goes along with my article that I found in Education Week. This school didn't like traditional grades, so it created its own system. Students at Ashland Middle School in Oregon didn't get A's or B's on their assignments. They aren't graded on a 100-point scale or given a traditional standard-based grade. But these students and their teachers can articulate what part of an assignment they struggled on, where they excelled, and what they need to do differently next time. The 2 principals, like nearly half of the teachers, principals, and district leaders across the country surveyed by EdWeek Research Center in March and April, say traditional grades are somewhat or very ineffective way of offering feedback to students. We really wanted to translate the standards into student-friendly language. That was a big challenge. And as I just pointed out, our district was working on that kind of thing last year and continues this year, so that's a really good thing. So over the course of about a decade, the school's teachers and leaders devised their own grading system that considers student work according to a set of rubrics Ashland educators created from scratch. The system is now complete with bespoke, standards-based scoring and reporting software. We like the idea of getting clear with kids about what the expectations were for them in their classes and making sure that those expectations were really clearly articulated. The school also wanted to shift from an emphasis on ensuring students digest certain content to a focus on mastering higher order thinking skills. The first step in a long, still evolving process, asking teams of teachers to comb through state standards, prioritize those that transcended a particular unit of study and would help students get the knowledge and skills they need to tackle content at the next grade level. In history, for instance, that meant moving away from memorizing dates and focusing instead on skills such as analyzing primary source documents. Asking teachers to wade through standards isn't revolutionary, Holden acknowledged, but it was a necessary building block to what came next, the creation of a series of detailed student-friendly rubrics for every grade and subject that could be used to give students feedback on their work. The rubrics defined what it meant for a student to reach mastery or proficiency on a particular skill or standard. Some standards are kind of clunky, and so our teachers spent a lot of time to break down those standards into discrete parts, which became rows of the rubric. Then the rubric language became very objective and measurable and clear to students and parents. Now, we're not there yet, but we were looking at those standards and trying to break them down and put them in friendly student terms so that kids would know what they were expected to do. For instance, the school's rubric for writing a narrative piece considers a student proficient on organization and plot if their story has elements such as a beginning, climax, resolution, and if every event relates to the point of the story. The student would have reached a step beyond proficiency, mastery, if their story included both internal and external conflict and if its resolution relates to an intentional theme. So you can see how it kind of builds. On the other hand, a student who hasn't reached proficiency on this skill might be missing key plot elements. Events in their story may be confusing, illogical, out of sequence, or irrelevant. Teachers had to keep the rubrics jargon-free and phrase expectations in a way a middle schooler could easily understand. We really wanted to translate the standards into student-friendly language. That was a big challenge. The system also enabled teachers to get a better sense of which skills their students struggled with as opposed to just seeing aggregate scores for each student. If almost everybody got 8 out of 10 on an assignment, you don't know if it's because of problems with crafting a conclusion or introduction, whereas with rubrics, you're like, wow, everybody was proficient on this, this, and this, but man, quite a few kids weren't proficient on this. I'm going to go back and reteach that or work with a small subgroup of kids on it. Yet even after Ashland developed a set of rubrics that could be used for every assignment, the school kept giving traditional grades along with the proficiency-based feedback. That was a problem because it became too much for students and teachers to keep track of. Eventually, everybody in the school said, yeah, we're done with letter grades. We don't need them. And that was awesome too. It wasn't the principal saying we're to make this change. It was our staff coming together in authentic decision making. One of the biggest challenges of this approach, keeping track of where students stand and communicating that information to parents. We all grew up with letter grades, so we all are familiar with that. Most parents felt more confident in it once they see that their children are clear about academic expectations. Still, the biggest pushback is from families who really put a lot of pride and pressure on straight A's. Another big challenge, keeping track of the feedback and allowing students and parents to see progress. A school board member with computer programming skills helped tackle that problem. He worked with school leaders to create a tool that could hold the district standard-based rubrics as well as help teachers create rubrics for specific assignments. The system also allows parents to see what assignments students are missing, and it offers badges for certain academic accomplishments such as achieving 100% proficiency on the skills assessed in a particular class. That was revolutionary. And so they gave some specific examples. It was mostly of writing, which I know the English department did have 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade rubrics for like writing narratives, informative and argumentative essays. I don't know if they still do or not, I'm not sure. But I know we did, when I was there, we created those rubrics for each grade level, and they used them quite well. So I think we're really going in the right direction. I'd like to see those rubrics come about. Of course, along with the writing, I again, being an English teacher, reading and writing's my thing, and so I'm really wanting to see that across the curriculum. So it was just an interesting, and I thought somewhat goes with what we are already doing. So I was so happy to bring that to your attention. Thank you. Oh, happy Thanksgiving. I had that down, I almost forgot.
Thank you, Ms. White.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Coco?
I'm sure I can follow all of that amazing information that you just shared. I don't have a lot tonight. I was very fortunate to go to the Capitol Conference with some board members and members from the district, and just being able to be with a lot of other elected officials and board members who are there from all over the state. it's kind of a humbling experience when you go to these things and you're, you know, networking with other people, and sometimes we get very in our bubble with our district problems, and to be able to realize that we're not so unique. A lot of other districts have the same problems, but also to be able to share ideas on how we're overcoming those, and to also share our accomplishments is a great thing, I think, for us, and kind of relights the fire of why we do what we do. So I was happy to do that. I'm very much looking forward to going to Frankenstein Friday night. My whole family's coming to that, so I'm excited. And then happy Thanksgiving to everyone. And looking into December, I'm looking forward to reading in the middle schools as well. Yeah. Karen Gideon, that's one I enjoy doing that.
I do too.
So,
Yeah, I see.
looking forward to that.
And reading
That's
policies.
And policies, yes. I did a lot of that last night. You can ask my daughter.
I know, we talked last night.
I know.
I'm up next. Last evening, I was able to stop by the Richardson PTO Carnival. They did a great job. They made some really inventive games that I have not seen before. And I've been to a lot of PTO, HSL, and PTA carnivals in my time as a board member. And they had some new games, so that's quite the feat. And the kids, they had a packed gym, and kids were having a lot of fun. Lots of families, great connections, and then, of course, as always, staff members going above and beyond, volunteering their time to volunteer at those events to just make those additional connections with families and students. So, wonderful, wonderful event. Mrs. Terlange brought her family out as well, so that her kids that don't go to our district could also enjoy the carnival and make connections with families in our district. So I thought that was really wonderful. A shout out to her. Earlier this week, my family did one of our holiday traditions, which is go to the Holiday Tree Festival benefiting Akron Children's Hospital at the Jonas Knight Center. And I always look for the wreaths that are made by our high school art club and the National Art Honor Society. So check those out. There's still time to go see that. And I just like enjoy how our artists make efforts to give back to the community, because those funds that are raised by those go back to the Akron Children's Hospital Foundation. And then as well, the OSBA Capital Conference, I was really excited that we got to feature our students 2 of the 3 days at the Black Caucus dinner. Our Nepali students from the Culture Club came and honored us with a dance, and it was really wonderful. And if you would like to see that dance, it was recorded by their advisor, and Ms. Stewart has it up on the district's YouTube channel. So if you were there and saw it and want to see it again, you can, or if you weren't there and would like to see it, it's on the district's YouTube channel. So it's really beautiful, and they made mention of the fact that they choreographed a special dance just for that occasion, and it's part of their culture. That's a way of honoring something. So it was really beautiful. And then on Monday, as part of the Student Achievement Fair, our students from our Career Tech Educational Program in Urban Agriculture, and I know that's not really what it's called, but I'll instill that in my heart, came down and featured their program. And they had a lot of people. I looped through a few times, and every time I walked by, somebody was there talking to either one of our students or Mr. McIntosh and asking them questions about the program. So it was nice to see how much engagement they got. And I know everyone in our district is just exceedingly proud of that program, and what a huge impact it has had on the students that engage in it, and just the positive impact it has on them, and then how it's kind of spread out across all of our other buildings as well. Mrs. Schaefer?
I also don't have much. I enjoyed the Capitol Conference as well. I went to a couple of sessions that were, I went into one that was a happy accident. I was on my schedule, I was on the wrong day, and I went into the wrong session, but it ended up being a great session that was student-led, and they had their organization set up like a corporation, and it was like the vice president of operations and the director of human resources, and it was all student-led, and they had like a LinkedIn, like a little QR code that was linked in. They paused their presentation, and they said, everyone pull out your phones, scan our LinkedIn, now we're like connected and LinkedIn, and like it, and they were talking about like connections, and it was all student-led. They were very well-spoken. They were helping other students build their resumes, cover letters, practice soft skills for interviewing and such. And I know that we have some programs like that here in different areas, but then this one is, I think that we can probably do something like this also and just kind of bolster it. It was very exciting, and these young people were so they were corporate America. It was very exciting. I did not know it was going to be so inspiring, I guess. But so happy accident, as Ms. Coco said earlier when I said I was going to go in there by accident, that I had gone in there by accident. Just happy accident. It was very inspiring. A lot of great presentations down there. A lot of students just doing their thing down there, and a lot of great things in other districts, and a lot of things I think that we're also doing well, and I think we could do some of that stuff too. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer. Item J, executive session. Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, it's hereby moved that the board adjourn to executive session to consider the employment and discipline of a public employee or official.
A second.
Please call the, there'll be no action other than adjournment after. Please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
We're in executive session at 8:25.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Good night, thanks for coming, everyone. Thank you. Tell Kevin I said hi.